AI boob. The AI boob. OpenAI ChatGPT. Google AI, the CEO of the most hyped tech company on earth, just confessed that his $200 per month subscription loses money on every single customer. Not a little money, not break-even with growth potential, but actual losses. And Wall Street's response: they valued his company at $500 billion. Welcome to the AI bubble, where we went from a cool chatbot to a $7 trillion gamble in just 24 months, and why the smartest investors on the planet might be walking straight into the biggest financial disaster since 2008. November 30th, 2020. Just another Wednesday morning, cold brew coffee flowing through Silicon Valley veins. Engineers debugging code like any other day. Then OpenAI dropped ChatGPT, and the entire internet lost its collective mind. Within 48 hours, humanity had a new obsession that would reshape everything we thought we knew about technology and money. People weren't just using it casually. They were writing breakup texts with it, debugging complex code, getting explanations of black holes in simple terms, and generating personalized bedtime stories for their kids. Parents everywhere were having the same surreal conversation with their children about talking to an artificial intelligence that seemed to know everything and could explain quantum entanglement using Minecraft terminology. The growth was absolutely unprecedented. 1 million users in the first 5 days. 2 months later, 100 million users. To put that in perspective, Instagram took 2.5 years to reach 100 million users. Facebook took 4.5 years. ChatGPT obliterated both records in just 60 days, and it sent Silicon Valley into absolute panic mode. Inside Google's headquarters, executives were having what can only be described as a complete meltdown. They had invented the underlying technology. The transformer model that powered ChatGPT had Google's fingerprints all over it. The foundational research paper literally had their engineers' names on it. So why were their own children using ChatGPT instead of a Google product? Because Google had been too terrified to release it to the public. They worried about potential lawsuits, bad press, and the unpredictable things AI might say. OpenAI had no such fears. They shipped first, and in the technology world, first-mover advantage is absolutely everything. Within weeks, the money started flowing like a broken dam. Microsoft threw $10 billion at OpenAI, with another $3 billion on standby. Google panic-launched Bard, which immediately hallucinated facts in its very first public demonstration. Amazon started dumping billions into Anthropic. Meta pivoted hard into AI research. Every venture capital firm on Sand Hill Road was suddenly an AI expert. Companies that had been building completely unrelated products were scrambling to add AI to their pitch decks. The conversations became absurd. Entrepreneurs would walk into meetings saying they had a dog walking app, but the route optimization used machine learning, and investors would throw $50 million at them without even seeing a demo. If your slide deck mentioned neural networks or large language models, you were basically printing money. By mid-2023, the funding frenzy had reached peak absurdity. Companies with zero revenue, no actual product, just a team and a detailed Google document were raising $100 million rounds at billion-dollar valuations. The bubble gave us technological marvels like AI-powered toothbrushes that apparently brushed teeth better, AI recipe generators that suggested putting glue on pizza, and AI dating coaches that gave advice somehow worse than your divorced uncle. One company even raised $30 million to build an AI that summarizes the outputs of other AI systems. We had officially reached maximum insanity. But the real madness was happening in the hardware market. GPUs. These little computer chips that look like harmless circuit boards suddenly became more valuable than gold or oil. Nvidia, the company that makes them, became one of the most valuable companies on planet Earth. Their CEO, Jensen Huang, started wearing leather jackets to conferences like he was the Mick Jagger of semiconductors. And honestly, he kind of was. The economics were staggering. Renting a single top-tier H100 GPU costs about $3 per hour, which sounds reasonable until you realize that startups don't need one GPU. They need hundreds or thousands. A small startup trying to train just one model might rent a 500-chip cluster. That's $1,500 per hour, $36,000 per day, over $1.1 million per month just for renting computing power. And yet companies were still hoarding GPUs like doomsday preppers stockpile canned beans. Nvidia couldn't manufacture them fast enough. The waitlist stretched up to 12 months at one point. Black markets emerged for GPU chips. People were legitimately smuggling $100,000 chips across international borders. By 2024, everything was suddenly AI. Your toaster now burns bread with 10% more efficiency using neural networks. Your calendar app suggests meeting times using deep learning algorithms. Your grocery store self-checkout is just a camera, but now it's powered by machine learning. The party was in full swing, champagne flowing, checks clearing, everyone getting rich on paper. Then somebody finally asked the uncomfortable question that had been lurking in the shadows. How much does this actually cost to run? January 2020. Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI and the public face of the entire AI revolution, tweeted something that made every investor's blood pressure spike instantly. He wrote, and I quote, "Insane thing. We are currently losing money on OpenAI Pro subscriptions. People use it much more than we expected." Let that sink in for a moment. OpenAI charges $200 per month for their Pro tier, and they lose money on every single subscriber, which means the more successful they become, the more money they lose. It's a business model that would make any traditional CFO have a nervous breakdown. When they originally launched ChatGPT Plus at $20 per month, their entire pricing strategy was laughably simple. Hey tested two price points, $20 and $42, to see which one people complained about less, then picked that one. No comprehensive market research, no detailed cost analysis, no financial modeling. Just pure vibes. That's how a company valued at $500 billion priced its flagship consumer product, on vibes. But the financial reality gets significantly worse when you look at the actual numbers. OpenAI's 2024 finances showed $3.7 billion in revenue but $5 billion in losses. They didn't just fail to turn a profit. They lost more money than they made by a substantial margin. Now here's where the situation becomes truly insane and starts to look like every bubble that came before it. Industry forecasts show that AI infrastructure will require $6.7 trillion by 2030. Let me break that astronomical number down for you. $5.2 trillion will go directly to AI infrastructure like specialized accelerators, massive power grid upgrades, industrial cooling systems, and data center construction. The remaining $1.5 trillion goes to traditional non-AI cloud infrastructure to support everything else. The four largest technology companies alone are expected to spend $350 billion in 2025. That's 1 year of spending that exceeds the GDP of many countries. And here's the real kicker that should terrify every rational investor. To justify these absolutely insane costs, the AI industry needs to generate $2 trillion in annual revenue by 2030. The current total AI revenue across the entire industry, somewhere around $200 billion. That's a 10 times gap that needs to close in just 5 years. The internal projections at these companies are even more delusional. Sam Altman reportedly needs OpenAI to hit $100 billion in annual revenue by 2020. Their current trajectory shows them at maybe $20 billion in 2025. That's not a growth curve. That's a hockey stick drawn by someone who's never actually played hockey. The cash burn to even attempt this is projected at $115 billion by 2020. When investors ask when the company becomes profitable, the answer is consistently 2029, maybe 2030, or possibly 2030. And if revenue doesn't hit that magical $100 billion target, they'll just raise more money. From whom exactly? Microsoft has already invested heavily. Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund has limits. Even the most optimistic pension funds have fiduciary responsibilities. Since 2021, private investors have pumped hundreds of billions into AI startups. Most of that capital went to just 10 companies, whose combined valuations swelled by nearly $1 trillion. Everyone's betting they'll become the next Google or Amazon. But then the failures started rolling in, and they were spectacular. ChatGPT hallucinated, which is tech industry speak for completely making things up with confident authority. It cited research papers that don't exist, referenced legal cases that never happened, and pulled statistics from what can only be described as an alternate dimension. Google's AI told users to put glue on pizza to make the cheese stick better because it learned that brilliant tip from a Reddit joke. Yes, that actually happened. Then came the lawsuits, wave after wave of them. Artists, writers, musicians, and journalists all asking the same fundamental question: did you train your AI on my copyrighted work without permission? The answer was universally, yes, but we prefer to call it learning from publicly available data. The New York Times sued OpenAI. Getty Images sued Stability AI. Authors guilds sued everyone. Musicians sued everyone else. The companies argued they didn't steal. They learned. The creators argued that scraping the entire internet without permission and using it commercially sure sounds a lot like theft. When you phrase it like that, it definitely sounds illegal. By mid-2024, the cracks in the narrative were becoming impossible to ignore. The vibe shifted from euphoria to something far more dangerous. Doubt. The hype was still loud, but the underlying math was getting uglier by the quarter. Everyone had the same uncomfortable question buzzing in their heads like a mosquito at 3 a.m. When does this whole thing explode? Here's why this bubble is different from the dot-com crash. Unlike 1999, when startups had zero revenue and 17 foosball tables, today's AI bubble is being funded by big tech companies that actually generate massive profits. Real money. Microsoft prints billions from Azure and enterprise software. Google prints billions from advertising. Meta prints billions from showing you memes your cousin already sent you. These giants aren't investing in AI because it's currently profitable. They're investing because they're absolutely terrified of being the company that didn't, the one that got left behind when the entire world changed overnight. If AI becomes the next iPhone moment, the next Google search moment, the next fundamental technology that transforms everything, then the company that hesitated becomes BlackBerry. Nobody wants to be BlackBerry. Think of big tech like poker players who all brought unlimited chips to the table. If Microsoft folds their hand, Google wins the pot. If Google folds, Amazon wins. If Amazon folds, Meta wins. Nobody blinks, nobody folds. Everyone just keeps raising the stakes higher and higher, and the pile of chips in the middle of the table grows to absurd proportions. That brings us to the truly uncomfortable question that keeps investors awake at night. If everyone keeps spending regardless of profitability, how do bubbles ever actually pop? The short answer is they burst when a real-world event forces everyone to simultaneously stop pretending everything is fine. Historically, that event comes in 3 main forms. First, the money suddenly disappears. The dot-com bubble didn't collapse because websites were a stupid idea. It collapsed because the cash spigot shut off completely. Interest rates rose dramatically. Borrowing money became expensive. Venture capital funding vanished overnight. Thousands of companies evaporated within months. If interest rates spike again, and big tech companies are forced to tighten their budgets significantly, the AI bubble could end almost instantly. Second, a massive embarrassing meltdown happens that shatters confidence. Every bubble has its defining moment. One spectacular failure that makes everyone panic simultaneously. The dot-com era had sockpuppet.com and pets.com disaster. 2008 had Lehman Brothers. Crypto had FTX AI's version, could be a major lab revealing catastrophic losses, a botched model launch that causes serious harm, or a landmark lawsuit that freezes the entire industry. So where are we right now in this bubble cycle? Big tech is still spending at unprecedented levels. There hasn't been a meltdown earnings call yet. No FTX-level scandal has emerged. The underlying reality is showing serious cracks, but not enough yet to break investor confidence completely. Yes, this bubble is massively inflated. Yes, the numbers are absolutely insane by any historical measure, but it won't burst simply because of hype. It bursts when one of the giants finally stands up and says, "All right, that's enough. We're done here." Until that moment arrives, the bubble continues to float higher and higher into increasingly dangerous territory. We're not at the explosion yet. We're at the tightening, that moment of maximum tension before something snaps. We're at the inhale before the scream, the calm before the storm, The episode right before the season finale reveals everything. The AI revolution is real, but so is the bubble surrounding it. What happens next will reshape technology and finance for the next decade. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens when this bubble finally bursts. Drop a comment telling me if you think AI is worth the $7 trillion bet or if we're headed for disaster. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.